Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted, as always, to be joined by Punch Out Boxing's Ra Hokum and ESBR Boxing's Elliot Grigg. Gents, good to be joined by you. This is a big fight breakdown for the heavyweight fight that's taking place on the undercard of Terence Crawford versus Israel Madrimov in Los Angeles on August the 3rd. Martin Bakole, Jared Anderson. It's a great fight. Looking forward to getting some interesting opinions flown around. So we will get started, gents. How much of a step up is this for Jared Anderson, gents? Still very young in the heavyweight division. He's obviously fought a couple of good fighters in the past. Fought a former world heavyweight champion in Charles Martin, of course. Jerry Forrest is another one. Stopped him very early on. A couple of decent fighters, but how much of a step up? How much of a step up do you see this being? As our guest, Ra, I'll let you go first. Give us your thoughts on this one.
Too kind. Pleasure to be here as ever. How much of a step up? I think considerable step up for Jared Anderson. Um, and somewhat, I think he's almost been forced or pressured into it. Uh, he might well have been painted into a corner somewhat with given what's happening with the heavyweight scene and the involvement of Riyadh season. Um, So I'm inclined to think that when this was put to his management, they sort of had to take the plunge or know that they might be out in the wilderness for some time, because I imagine anyone who snubs His Excellency doesn't get a second chance for some time. Yeah, I mean, in purely in terms of skill set, I don't think Martin is that much of a jump. Maybe only a level up from, say, someone like Charles Martin, one level up. But I think a fighter's overall level isn't just a matter of their skill set; it's also their mindset and physical traits. And I think in terms of his physical traits, that's where I think it's a real considerable step up for Anderson. And yeah, there's some real jeopardy in this fight for him.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's yeah. Look, I think it's whether it's a big, small up, big step up or a small step up. It is certainly a step up, but it's a step up in terms of kind of when you compare the experience that both fighters have. And it's a step up in kind of the beast that you're handling. Basically, Bakole's kind of a very big man, has come in very heavy in his last fight, and it's going to be. I'm not sure it's going to be something that Anderson would have dealt with before. Elliot, give us your thoughts. How much of a step up do you think this is for Anderson compared to his previous opponents?
Yeah, thank you very much. I agree with Raj. I do think it's a level up, kind of due to the physical attributes, also to the mindset. And I think someone like Bakone as well has also been a bit in the wilderness himself, as he's been very motivated. I mean, Billy Nelson's been calling for big fights for Bakone for some time, so he's obviously hungry in a way which I don't think a lot of Jared Anderson's opponents can be accused of being. So I think it is that sort of psychological will to win. I think worth also mentioning, at ESBR there will be no snubbing of His Excellency either. So this is one of those good fights that those big fights that we do need to see. I think it's actually a massive sort of crossroads fights for both fighters actually, and I do think. I'm surprised. I know what Rob was saying about being almost sort of backed into a corner for taking this for Anderson. I kind of agree with that because I'm actually surprised that they've put him in with Bakole. Frankly, I think it's possibly a bit early. But again, if you're going to sort of, I suppose, promote yourself in certain way, especially in that sort of big division as well, then these are the sort of fights you're going to have to come through. But I do think it's a step up, and I'm surprised actually there's a step up that he's taken.
Yeah, look, I'll be honest, I was quite taken aback when I saw this fight was announced, but I think that's these Riyadh season events give us fights that you didn't see happening. And obviously with this, there's no belt on the line. It's not some sort of final eliminator, so it's a fight that neither men need to take, but they are taking, and that's the world we're in at the moment when it comes to boxing. We're getting fights that we didn't think we would have got a year or so ago. Next point, gents, is I'm interested again to get your opinions on this. We'll see if there's a disagreement. Is Martin Bakole a top 10 heavyweight? Obviously, you've got to have the Usyk, Fury, Joshua in there. But yeah, I think we've all got It's kind of our top 5 heavyweights, or top 10 heavyweights. Is Martin Bakole in your top 10? Elliot, I'll go with you first.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'm going to, I suppose, massage Billy Nelson's ego again here and say, I actually think Mike Bakole might possibly be in my top 10. Yeah, but it's hard to say that just for the reason that you're doing it really on potential, aren't you? Rather than, looking at his kind of record and going, yeah, you're definitely shoehorned in the top 10. But when you look around, I mean, obviously that win against Yoka was brilliant, but also quite a while ago. But you look around the other top 10 names that are kind of in the top 10, Parker, I mean, Hergovic, the names are still kicking around. Caballero. Do I think Bakole would beat some of those names? Yes, I do actually. I really do. So on that basis, I would have to put him in the top 10. I'm not convinced he'd obviously beat the likes of Fury, Joshua, or Usyk, but I think he'd maybe not even Zhang, to be honest. But I think he'd give some of those other names a hell of a fight and actually probably prevail. So yeah, I think if you look at the sort of state of the top 10 rankings, beyond sort of 4 or 5 is quite bleak, and I think Bakole's also got a big shout to be in there. Yeah, but he needs fights like this to kind of prove it though, because you look at that record and you go, well, I can't really say fight against Carlos Takam. It's gonna merit being in the top 10, but I do actually have him in my top 10. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. I think the winner of this fight, I think it would be hard for them to argue against them being in the top 10, just because, as you mentioned, I think you need to kind of beat someone who's perhaps top 15, maybe even top 10 to be a top 10 fighter, and Carlos Takam maybe isn't on that level a few months ago. Ra, what about you? Do you have Bakole in your top 10?
I agree with Briggsy on that. I do, but it is based more on the eye test in terms of what I think he would do against other top 10 guys rather than him actually deserving to be in the top 10. And this is the alphabet rankings notwithstanding, because we know they've got a lot of duff rankings. They've got guys ranked numbers 1 or 2 often, who shouldn't really be even in the top 20. So that's notwithstanding that. If you're talking about the real top 10, if you want to go by, say, the ring rankings, yeah, I think he probably deserves to be sort of around the sort of 8 to 10 range at best. But yeah, as you said, he hasn't proven it. It is based more just on, I think, what we think he would do to some of those other top 10 ranked guys. But yeah, again, as Briggsy said, the winner of this, no arguments, they should be in there.
Mm. I've got a bit of a wild card to throw in here, gents. We'll do a quick fire. Don't want to call it a fancy fight because it could happen. Daniel Dubois is fighting Anthony Joshua it's not far away now. He's obviously the IBF world champion. But I think most people would have Daniel Dubois in their top 10, maybe not. Martin Bakole against Daniel Dubois. What would your guys where would you guys sit on that one if that was to happen? Elliot, what's your immediate thoughts to that? If that fight was to happen beginning of next year, what would your prediction be?
I immediately thoughts of why didn't you go to Ra first, but I think I was going to say when you immediately said it, I think I was leaning towards Daniel Dubois, and the reason for that is I just think the hand speed that he carries might be the difference in the fight over Bakole. But again, we've seen Dubois vulnerable, isn't he, to power punches as well. So I could also see a world where Bakole, it was a close fight to be honest, 50-50 fight for me, but I just lean slightly towards Dubois at the moment, just for the wins he's come through as well. You look at some of the recent victories he's had as well, and you can't really shy away from that. So I'd edge him slightly, maybe 55-45.
Okay, slight prediction to Dubois. Raj, are you agreeing or disagreeing?
Agreeing. Sorry, I'm going off script from my usual contrarian approach. Daniel, he had this reputation as being a quitter because he took the knee twice. Personally, I don't class him as a quitter based on those two. One day we might have to break it down in more depth, but certainly since he's had his dad in the corner, for whatever reason, he needs his dad's authoritative voice to get the most out of him, and he does seem mentally a different fighter. And I think with Don Charles sort of honing himself tactically and technically, I think he would maybe put in the sort of right performance to edge out a victory. I think it'd be close. Obviously, Billy Nelson will tell you that Martin had hit him once and he'd take the knee. But no, I think as it stands, I would edge to Daniel. That could change after September 21st, depending on how that goes. I might favour Daniel more or less
Yeah,
after how he performs against AJ.
yeah,
But as it stands, yeah, I think I'd edge towards Daniel.
fair enough. No, I thought I'd throw that one in there as a nice surprise. But back to the breakdown. Move on to predictions shortly, gents. But I'm interested to get both your opinions on who the bigger who the bigger puncher is here, because they are both considerable punchers. Jared Anderson's got 15 knockouts in 17 wins, obviously a very high KO percentage there. Bakole, high KO percentage as well. Obviously, we saw him stop Carlos Takam in his last fight, 15 knockouts, sorry, in 20 wins. Um, just look, it's a rugged kind of aggressive question, but who's the bigger puncher here? Ra, I'll go back to you. Who would, in kind of some sort of kind of knockout punch bag contest, who would you fancy to win this?
Martin Bakole, definitely. He's a considerably bigger and more powerful man. Um, I mean, punching power, I don't think it's as clear cut as people think, and this is why I remember we once flirted with this idea of me coming on and telling you why I thought Wilder's power is overrated, because there's being a big puncher and being a better puncher. I'm sure there's a whole load of guys out there that can hit that machine that Ivan Drago hit and score as high as in, what was it, 15,000 units per square inch pressure or whatever. But doing it in an actual fight against a moving object, that's different. I think Jared Anderson is the more skilled puncher. So he might actually be the better puncher in the sense that at a higher level, he might have the ability to land a more effective knockout punch than someone like Bakole. I don't see a lot of Bakole stoppages coming from, a crisp, clean punch that's landed right on the button. A lot of them are just sort of bludgeoning, half scuffed shots, but just the sheer force of them, especially because of his size, is enough to get the opponent in trouble, and he can then finish an opponent off. So yeah, I definitely think Bakole is the more powerful man, but it won't necessarily mean he'll get the better knockouts.
Yeah, yeah, quite. Yeah, no, look, it's a little bit there to unpack. Ra, I'm sorry that we didn't do that video about Deontay Wilder. We'll still get it done at some point if Wilder does fight again or not, because you've always got a fair amount to say. Elliot, thoughts? Who's the bigger puncher in your book? Bakole is obviously kind of the big, is the bigger man, but is he the bigger puncher as well?
Yeah, I was struggling a little bit when you asked this question, and it's going to come across I'm sort of plagiarizing Ra's answer, but he actually drew some very insightful points then, which I actually agree with. I think Bakole, to me, he uses his size, he sort of thuds people down, like chops them down essentially. It doesn't really land, like you say, crisp, where someone like Anderson is definitely the crisper and cleaner puncher. I mean, it's hard to look at their record, isn't it? And look at it and go like, what big names have you chinned on there that you can really sit them up and say they carry the sort of power that you would put one above the other. I mean, I look at Bakole, I think Marius Watch, not a bad stoppage, considering that he was obviously been in with everyone as well. I don't know. I'd lean towards Bakole. I'd lean towards him just on overall power. Like Ra said, just overall power and size of the man and the sort of weight coming behind those punches. And also, he's depending on what people read into this, but that kind of the older fighter as well, and that kind of mature old man strength that people talk about as well. I'd have him down there with that as well. So I'm also gonna agree with. I'm gonna go with Bakole, but eye catching sort of one off shots is not really where he's sort of going to specialize. Whereas that's more for Anderson, but just overall power, Bakole.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, gents, we've gone through it. We're going to finish with some predictions at this stage. Jared Anderson's actually a slight favourite for this fight, according to the bookmakers. We'll discuss whether that's the right or wrong, but those are price. You can get a price of 6-4 just for Bakole to win this fight. I'm going to get involved, and I'm going to be selfish, and I'm going to start. I am going for Bakole to win this fight, probably by stoppage. I just think Jared Anderson, I still think he's one for the future, and he's one who could be a real star in 2 or 3 years' time. And I don't think Martin Bakole is the right fight for him now. I just don't. I just think he's a bit of a beast, to be honest. And I think I think he's had such a frustrating stop-start career since the loss to Michael Hunter. And it's great to see him in this sort of fight. So we'll see what happens. But I'm going for Bakole. Ra, what are you going for, Bakole or Anderson?
If it came straight down to a matter of skills, I would have been very confident in Jared Anderson. And to some extent, I think maybe that's one reason they've taken the fight. Is they must have looked at the Hunter fight and rightfully thought our man can do everything Hunter can do and probably a bit better. And they're right. He is able to do everything Hunter does. But he's bigger, more powerful, and younger than Hunter was when he fought Bakole. But the one thing that's got me really questioning Anderson is the mindset. You know, this saying, oh, I want to be out by the age of 27 when I've just made enough money, going on camera in tears, saying the pressure's too much. I mean, it just doesn't bode well for me. I'd like to think maybe at some level, is he trolling everyone? I don't know. Or is that just what's acceptable now for even aggressive young men to to do on camera? I don't know. That's why I've got serious doubts. Like in terms of skills, I think Anderson is far superior. I'm a big fan of that American Midwestern region. They've got probably the deepest history in terms of pure boxing knowledge, and he is from Toledo, Ohio, and it shows in his skill set. But as you said, Bakole, he's a physical specimen, and he will really test that mindset of Anderson. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Anderson, his mindset once he's in there isn't as weak as it's looked. That, you know, for all the media stuff he does, and that he will get through some very trying moments and box his way to a close decision.
Okay, interesting. No, good analysis, Ra. We'll see what happens on the night. It's 1-1, so no pressure to get this one right, Greg. What are you going for? Give us a breakdown and your prediction ahead of the big heavyweight fight.
You know, this is tough for two reasons. One, I think, like you said, Bakole looks big. He's bigger than Anderson. He's fresh as well. There's not a lot of miles on his clock, really. But the thing that's kind of confusing me in this is the fact that the fight's taking place in the US as well. If Anderson can get to the final bell with the sort of, I suppose, the backing he's got as well, will he just take a points decision, irrespective almost of the fight? You said they're going, well, Bakole's not exactly a massive name. No one's really obviously no one's big a name as Anderson. So if it comes down to the judges, are you going to look at it that way and just give him a sort of an American decision? Possibly. Can I see the fight going the distance? Yes, I can see that happening. So I actually think Bakole's either got to stop him or it's going to be Anderson on points, frankly. It's tough, like you say. It's at this stage of his career as well. I'm going to go, this is really a 50-50, but I'm going to go with Jared Anderson on points.
Okay.
To be honest with you, I'd much rather see Bakole win. I think Bakole can win on points. We saw that with the fight against Yoka, where he obviously wasn't the favourite in that one either. But I just feel it's almost too much to overcome. We'd have to knock him out, I think, for me to win. I don't think he's going to be able to win on points in the US.
We shall see. Look, I think the fact that both of you have not made easy predictions here says what a good fight it is and what a tough fight it is to call. We'll see what happens on the night, gents. Jared Anderson versus Martin Bakole in Los Angeles on August the 3rd. Elliot and of course Ra, thank you both very much for your time, and I'll speak to both of you again very, very soon.